So I'm Carolyn Childs and I'm a long-time Petersham resident. I've actually lived in Petersham for 17 years, which is longer than I've lived anywhere else. And I've been reading all of these reports about the property market in Petersham, and they all sounded universally dire. So I asked a friend of mine who I met through the local business association, Frederico from Raine Horne Petersham, to chat to me a little bit about what's going on, because I'm a market researcher for a living, so I got really curious. So Frederico, talk to me about this market that we're operating in at the moment, because months and years of good news and suddenly it all seems to be doom and gloom.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for reaching out to me, Carolyn. I think the reality is, and I've said this on a few occasions in other videos for people that have watched them, we've entered a normal market. I think the fact that it came very soon was overwhelming for people. I mean, we had exponential growth year on year on year. It felt like it never ended.
Yes.
And then it stopped.
Yes.
And then it started to go down, 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 and people just get so shocked. People forgot about the fact that this would happen. And
what's been your experience though in Petersham? Have you felt that in the market? Have you felt this downturn?
Absolutely. Look, you know, I service not only Petersham and Lewisham but also surrounding suburbs in the inner west, and definitely it has affected the market across the board. The good thing about the inner west, where we are, is that it's always going to be, and it always has been, a great option for owner-occupiers and investors. You know, I mean, we're here today in Petersham Park, you know, such a beautiful asset that we have.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
You know, and that's the thing, we're spoiled for choice in terms of parks, transport, schools, proximity to the city, accessibility to the city, hospitals. We've got everything we need. So it's always going to be something that's attractive to people. So we, in some cases, have not been as affected as maybe other parts, you know, of Sydney or New South Wales, because of those reasons. Okay,
so how's that played out? So have you seen a downturn? Who should be looking right now, Frederico?
Look, we definitely have seen things shift, right? In advantage for people that want to get in the market, so first home buyers, and also owner-occupiers that are upsizing from a current home that they're living in at the moment.
Why those two groups? What's in it for them?
So the reason for that is, previously in the market that we were working with, when you wanted to upsize, you would have sold your home. And if you didn't buy within a short time frame, which was very likely because there wasn't enough choice and there was a lot of people with the ability to upsize or to purchase, people were being priced out even when they'd sold. So they were running the risk of not even buying the home, but they just sold for what they sold for, and also purchasing the home for what they calculated, because that was also increasing. Now, the market being normal, we've reached plateau. And we feel that it will be pretty stable for, you know, an unknown period of time, but for a few years now. So if you're upsizing and you want to sell, if you don't buy in a very short time frame, you're going to be okay, because the property is not going to be without of reach that you're looking to purchase.
Okay, so we've got these two groups who've got the opportunity. You're a real estate agent. Share the secret sauce with us. What are your hot tips for getting the most out of it? Ideally for those two groups, but for other people as well. Yeah,
definitely. Look, if you've got a relationship with a bank or a relationship with a broker, start having a conversation with them. The sooner the better. The reason is, okay, right now we're obviously going through, you know, now what is the end of the Royal Commission, okay? But in the last 12 months, a little bit more than that, we know that it's a lot harder to get a loan. The banks and the brokers are requesting a lot more information, and they're going through the information a lot more thoroughly than what they did. So it's taking longer for a potential buyer to understand what their position is and what their borrowing capacity is than before. So if you've got in mind that you want to make a move, do that sooner rather than later. But still start looking at things so that when you see the right property, it's not, oh, I've just started looking. It's, well, I had a look at that, that was good value, I wasn't in a position to buy. Now I am, maybe early stages, but I know what I want. And act on that.
Okay, so take early advice. What are your other hot tips?
If you are upsizing from a home, you know, get a realistic idea on what it's worth. You know, I mean, that's obviously something that we can do for people without any obligation. Understanding what the worst case scenario is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, because we all tend to look at our homes ourselves quite passionately. We can't believe everyone wouldn't want to. So we do those two things. You've almost persuaded me I should be thinking about that, but I absolutely love living in Petersham. So I guess my last question is, never been a better time to buy if you're in one of those two groups, particularly the upsizers and the first-time home buyers. If you've got your finance sorted and you've got a sense if you're upsizing the value of your home, Why would you come to here? Why Petersham, Lewisham area?
Look, I think, and like I said before, I always speak about Petersham and Lewisham as one, they do share the same postcode.
Yeah.
And I think being a small suburb, the turnover is less compared to other inner west suburbs. So the awareness is not there. And a very big reason for why I started the community page, Life in Petersham.
Yes.
To
Do
raise
check out
awareness.
the Facebook page, by the way.
Yeah,
folks.
and look, that's something that I always encourage buyers that, buyers that I meet on the weekend, often they go, oh look, I haven't actually looked at anything in Petersham or Lewisham before. So I go, look, hop onto this, and they can learn a little bit more about not only Petersham and Lewisham, but inner west in general. And it's still a suburb that's overlooked by people.
Yes.
So there's still exceptional value in my opinion. And I am biased. I mean, I grew
I
up
think
in the
we're
area.
a little bit like the Inner West Brigadoon, aren't we? We're this secret magic place.
Yeah, that's right. But if we go to a point that I touched on before, in terms of transport for the Inner West, I mean, Petersham and Lewisham, they've each got their own train station. Lewisham's now been fortunate enough to have the light rail. You've got buses everywhere as well.
Yep.
For such a small suburb, we're very, very well serviced in that respect. And lots of parks to choose from.
Yeah.
Lewisham Public School, Petersham Public School, lots of preschools as well. And, Petersham is also one of those places that there's still an element of community.
That's true.
Which I think is very rare nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to, tell people, look, a couple over there down the road, they've lived here for 40 years.
Yeah, it's almost like a small town life, isn't it? I actually met someone who's lived in Petersham since it had a 3-digit phone number. How amazing is that?
There you go.
Okay, so thanks, Frederico, for sharing your hot tips and wisdom.
My pleasure, Carolyn. Thanks for reaching out.
No problem, thank you.